Online courses, do they work? Do people even buy them? Can you build a business around them? Can you quit your job because you're making so much money selling online courses? That's what I want to talk about today. So we're going to talk about specifically my story of doing just that, creating a hobby brand with some content and that becoming my full-time business that has generated 6 figures of income for the last decade or more. We're going to talk about what credentials you need to sell an online course. Stick around for that. I'm get a little snarky with that one. And then we're going to talk about the 3 types of courses that you can create. So the top question that I will get in regards to something like this, especially if you're already kind of sold on the idea of you want to create a course, is what course by the way, my answer is yes, you can make good money selling courses, and people do buy courses. We'll get into that. But a lot of times people will get stuck on, okay, but what do I use to like host the courses? How do I sell the courses? What do people actually log into? Do I use like a WordPress site and then a plugin that goes on top of WordPress to create? I use a system called Kajabi. I use Kajabi for my website. I use it for my landing pages. I use it for my email marketing. I use it for my podcast. I use it for, it's a private podcast for customers only. I use it for everything I do online in my business runs through Kajabi. It has saved me a ton of money because I don't have to have all these other systems that I'm paying monthly to be able to do email marketing over here, landing pages over here, video hosting over here. It does all of them. Plus, I'm a big fan of having everything in one place. It makes for an easier mind space for myself, and also it's less complicated. When I use a system that has a bunch of other components, I have to make sure that each of those components are speaking to one another internally, and that stuff tends to break. With Kajabi, it's all in-house. It's very simple, but it's also very powerful. Kajabi normally offers a 14-day free trial. If you use my link, joegilder.biz/Kajabi, that'll give you a full 30-day trial, which is long enough to get your course uploaded, start sending emails, and start making money before you pay a penny for Kajabi. It gets my wholehearted recommendation. My entire business runs on Kajabi. Be sure to check it out. Okay, so what's my story? So my name is Joe Gilder. I started this YouTube channel earlier this year, but for the last 15 years, I've been running my first YouTube channel, which is called Home Studio Corner. As of this shooting, it has somewhere around 230,000 subscribers, and it generates multiple 6 figures in income for me personally every year, and I only work about 20 hours a week. This summer, actually, I'm only working 2 days a week, so that's fun. However, and my recent video talked about that whole working 2 hours a week thing, which is just fantastic. But today I want to hone in on specifically on courses. So how did this come about? So my story goes like this. That was a weird way of saying, here's my story. I grew up in a fairly musical family, learned to play guitar and sing at an early age, began songwriting in high school, got into audio recording, learning how to record music and make an album. So I made a little album in high school. That got me really interested in music production in general. So I went to school, went to college, studied audio production there, and got a job out of college selling audio equipment over the phone. 100% commission sales job. I highly recommend a commission sales job. At some point, you will learn so much. And for me, it lit a fire to do things that help generate income for myself. Up until that point in my life, I never even thought about having a direct impact on my own income. I just assumed I would get a job and they would pay me, and I would hope they'd give me a raise occasionally. But selling on commission meant, hold on, if I sell more stuff or more expensive stuff or do a better job of closing customers, I'll make more money. Sign me up. So yeah, there's a lot of risk involved. It's certainly not for everybody. But if that kind of thing gets you going, gets you excited, then entrepreneurship is the obvious next step. So for me, I was working at that job, selling things like microphones, software, guitars, things like that over the phone. And I realized people had recurring questions that they would ask me. How do I set this up? How do I get this to sound good? How do I do, and things that I could tell them, but because I was a salesman, my job did not include training my customers. It didn't pay enough for me to spend hours training you how to use the thing you just bought from me. I really had to get on to the next customer, but I realized there was a gap there, right? You bought this stuff. It's in both of our best interests that you stick with this hobby so you'll buy more stuff from me in the future, plus you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of it, but I don't have the time to sit and train you how to use the stuff that I just sold you. Bing, 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 light went off. I could make some videos. I could create a blog and create some videos teaching people how to do the common questions that I get. So when you talk to me on the phone and I say, hey, great question, I answered that over on my YouTube channel, go check that out. That's all Home Studio Corner was in the beginning, was a creative outlet for me because I wanted to do something creative. I'd always had a blog, but this was like something that actually was not this narcissistic me talking about myself blog, but was actually helpful for the world. And it soon turned into a business for me. I realized that these people are getting a lot of value out of what I'm teaching them, and they also would love a structured deep dive into music production and how to do the things that I'm teaching. So YouTube, I would post really helpful, actually helpful content that's kind of like a snack, like a bite-sized one piece of a puzzle. But if they really wanted to go like start to finish through the entire process of music production, I could do that, but it needed to be inside some sort of a structured course. You could do that on YouTube, but YouTube's not a great place to do that. Plus, people tend to value what they pay for. And people were asking me, do you have a course? Do you have an ebook? That was the popular thing at the time. This was 15 years ago. And the biggest I could think was I could do an ebook and I could sell it for $15 and make a little money, enough to cover like my hosting. That's as big as I could think at the time. So first big takeaway, you don't have to be this natural born entrepreneur to be an entrepreneur. I was not the kid who was going out door to door during my summer vacation asking people if I could mow their grass. I did not have much of an entrepreneurial bent at all. That didn't come until like really after college, when I took that sales job, was the first time I thought, hold on, this could be really cool. So I believe that there are people who are born with that entrepreneurial gene. That's not me, but I've fallen in love with entrepreneurship, and it's really fun and creative. So if you think I'm a creative type, I don't want to be a business owner, running a business is one of the most creative things that I do. Yes, making music and releasing albums is creative. Yes, performing music live is creative. Making videos is creative. Running a business is creative. It's all creative, and it's all super fun. So my story. Sorry, I got lost track. I was running the YouTube channel for about 7 months, and I launched my first course. And this course was a 19-week course teaching basically start to finish music production. And I charged, I believe it was $127 or 3 payments of $39, I believe is how that worked out. And it sold. I had an audience of less than 500 YouTube subscribers. Maybe around, it was less than 1,000 for sure. I know I only had about 500 email subscribers, and I probably sold 30, 40, 50 copies of that course in that first month. I made $3,000 that first month, and then the next month made $2,000 on the recurring billing of people who bought with the payment plan for a $100 thing. But like I said, it was a baby business. I was a baby entrepreneur. That was as big as I could think, but it blew my mind. I said, honey, we're going out for Red Lobster tonight because I just made a couple $1,000s. Never in my wildest dreams did I think people would actually pay me money to teach them something, right? Maybe that's why you're here. You're kind of in that place of saying, well, surely no one will pay money for me to teach them something. Let me give you a little insight. What is one of the big topics, especially as I'm shooting this video, in the political world today? I'm not going to get political, but there's a lot of talk around college debt, right? Debt from going to college. What are people paying to go to college? My school that I attended, Middle Tennessee State University, I believe currently I can't remember now, but at the time it was several $1,000s a semester, right? I want to say it was maybe $20,000 a year. I can't remember. Maybe that's what it is now. Either way, we're talking many zeros after the number, right? In my audio space, there are 2-year programs you can join. There's one down in Florida that is like $80,000 for a 2-year program. It's not a bachelor's degree. It's just a 2-year kind of certificate in audio production. $80,000. People will go to big major schools and incur 6 figures worth of debt to learn. Now, you may think, yeah, but learning from an online course isn't the same as college. Are you sure about that? I will say I learned a lot of great things in college. I don't regret my college degree, but the bulk of what I learned that has helped me in life has come outside of college. Also, you don't need a college degree to learn how to do specific tasks, to learn how to develop a specific skill. Now, there are certain things, of course. I can't be a lawyer or a doctor. I don't want my doctor to have only learned on YouTube, right? But for most things, right, such as musicianship, audio production, that is a skill set that I learned and developed, and then I shared what I learned with other people. So people are already spending, it is ingrained in our culture, at least here in America, that we spend money on education. You got people spending all kinds of money for private school education. You got people spending money on college education. You got thousands and thousands of dollars in scholarships going out to people so that they can go to higher education. Education, learning is valuable. Just because free content exists on platforms like YouTube does not mean that people aren't also willing to pay lots of money to have you teach them something that is valuable to them. Case in point, public libraries have existed for a really long time. Public libraries did not put colleges out of business. Even though it reminds me of that Good Will Hunting quote where he learned everything he learned for what he say, like $1.50 in late charges at the library, versus this guy at Harvard who is pontificating about how smart he is, and this janitor knows more than him because he just read a bunch of books from the public library. So the fact that libraries exist and high-end expensive universities exist is proof that people are willing to pay for education, not just information. They're willing to pay to have someone teach them in a way that is effective and valuable to them. So if you have a lot of, a friend of mine recently called it head trash around people paying for content, just remind you that books are a thing, universities are a thing, coaching and consulting is a thing. All you get, if I hire a consultant for my business, I'm getting nothing tangible from them. I'm getting ideas to help generate money. My customers aren't getting anything tangible from me in Home Studio Corner. They're getting ideas. They're getting digital information that helps improve their lives, helps them achieve a dream they've always had of releasing great sounding music. That is something that people are willing to pay for. And bonus, my niche in Home Studio Corner is hobbyists. I'm not teaching them how to make money. One of the bad raps that online courses get is there are a lot of online courses that teach you how to make money online. So it's a very circular logic, right? I make my money selling courses on how to make money online, selling courses on how to make... Now, is this channel about how to make money online? Yes, for sure. Do I have a course on how to make money selling courses? Not yet, but I probably will. Point being, I have seen it happen in my own business for the last 15 years. I'm not selling how to make money. I'm selling how to do something. So if you know how to do something, if you have a skill in a particular area, there are people who want to have that skill that you have. That leads me to my second point, which is, what credentials do you need to sell an online course? Here's the big answer. You ready? I'm going to write it down just so we all are on the same page. Here are the credentials that you need. None. You don't need any credentials to sell an online course. Yes, there are certifications. Yes, there are things out there. Yes, I technically have a degree in audio. I don't need anyone else's permission to sell an online course about something like how to make music, how to play golf, how to garden, how to bake, how to paint, how to do any number of things. You don't need anyone else's permission. So you may think, well, how do I know people won't listen to me? Why would they listen to me? I haven't won any awards. I haven't, been featured on a major news network for my awesomeness. I, don't have a best-selling book. Guess who else doesn't have those things? Me. I don't have a Grammy Award, but I'm a music producer. I have not been featured on, top 40 radio. I've been on a local station, but not I'm not a national, no one knows my name in the national sense. I can still help people. I have still figured out how to make great sounding music in a home studio, and I've gotten good at teaching people how to do that and helping people do that as well. That's all that's required. All that's required is that I have an ability to help someone else. You don't need permission to help people. So start helping people. So start that YouTube channel. Start putting out helpful content. Actually help people. And you'll find that if you help 1,000 people, 10 of those people might want to pay you for your help in the form of buying a course or doing some sort of coaching. There are lots of opportunities there. Today we're talking about courses, but there are people who are willing to pay to have better access to you, to have better information, to have a more cohesive, logical workflow. And for a lot of people, simply paying for that helps them get the most out of it. So you could make the argument that by not offering a paid course, you aren't giving the most value that you could give to your people. Now, some people have a problem with that logic. I could go either way, but I have found that I give good value on YouTube for people who can't afford my courses. Then people who can afford the courses, they see the value and they go pay hundreds of dollars, hundreds of dollars for those courses, and their lives are changed by applying what they learn in those courses. So if you have value to give, why not give it? If you're holding back thinking no one has given me permission to sell a course, I'm hereby giving you permission to sell your course. Because you have value to give, go give that value. By the way, speaking of giving value, that's a core tenet of the way I build my business, the business model that I follow. I call it the business game plan. GAME stands for an acronym for give, ask, measure, edit. I have a whole masterclass teaching you that process with a diagram, the whole thing. Super fun. Go check that out at joegilder.biz/game. All right, so with that in mind, let's talk about the types of courses that you can sell. Let's say you are sold on the idea of creating and selling courses. You have a rough idea of what you want that course to be about, or like the general topic of your brand. What kind of courses can you sell? Here's what I mean. There are basically 3 types of courses that I've created over the years, and I've sold all of them, and they all can work. So pick one that sounds good to you. The first option is the huge overview. This is kind of the flagship. I'm going to teach you soup to nuts, everything you need to know about this specific topic. So for me, music production, I'm going to teach you everything from pre-production, which is getting ready for the recording session, all the way through recording, editing, mixing, mastering, releasing music. The whole thing, start to finish. My first course was a version of that. It was 19 weeks, and we went through the whole process, one chunk of it at a time, one chunk of videos per week until we got to the end of the process. That can work wonderfully because you can see the process, it's easy to explain, and you can say, by the end of this, you will have gone from here to here. Problem with this type of course is it can be huge depending on what type of world you're in and how complicated it can be, and it can maybe seem a little bit overwhelming. Benefits are, if it is huge and it does cover a huge amount of ground, you can charge a lot of money for it because you are teaching them a whole lot of stuff. Now, that's the first option. Second option is what I would call the trilogy approach. Think about people who write books in like the Lord of the Rings. It's a trilogy, 3 separate books. They each have their own kind of complete story, but overall, it's most complete when you've read all 3, right? Book 1 is pointing towards book 3. Book 2 is continuing to point towards book 3, but each book in its own is still valuable and fun to read. This is the way I approached my business in the last several years. I decided that the music production process is bigger than even a 19-week course, and there are big chunks or phases of the process that I could go in depth on as its own singular course. So I currently have 4 courses that I sell. One is on songwriting, one is on recording, one is on mixing, and one is on mastering. Those are kind of the 4 big components of the process, and each of those dives deep into each component. They're best consumed all together. You'll get the best results if you go through all the courses, but if you only do one, there's still a lot of value there. If you think, I don't need to learn recording, I just want to learn mixing, great, I can help you. And a lot of times, going through one of the courses makes them more excited to go through the others once they see the value and the transformation they're getting. Another value there is you can now sell multiple things. Instead of only having one thing to sell, I have 4 things to sell, and I can create different versions and bundles and offers based on that, and I can get creative with that versus just having the one. Sometimes having just one can be great. Sometimes having multiples can be great as well. I can do a sale just on one of them and not the others. Or I can have this one on sale or get all 4 for this big discount. It's a bigger price because they're getting 4 courses and it's a bigger discount. They feel like they got a deal. I get to make money. Everybody's happy. Third type of course can be super niched down. So if the first type of course is a huge overview of the entire process, and the second type of course is take that big process and chunk it down into 3 or 4 big chunks, and each of those becomes a course, then the third option is to go super, super, super narrow into a specific area. This is what I did after I launched that first course, that very first course. The next year, I released somewhere close to a course a month on something very small and very specific. So if you think in terms of, well, I'll just use audio as an example. Mixing is what happens once you've recorded the tracks. It's what you do to the audio to get it to sound good by the end. You use tools like equalizers, compressors, reverbs, things like that. And so I decided, well, each of these can be pretty complicated. I get lots of specific questions about each of these things. Why don't I make a course for each of them? So I made a course just on using equalizers. Understanding EQ, it was called. I made a course just on using compressors. So very, very, very niche down, which means I could make it really in depth, but it was only still maybe a 3-hour, 4-hour course. I'm going really deep on a very specific piece of the puzzle, solving a very specific problem, offering a lot of value. The downside of those is you're not giving a full solution. You're helping them, sure. You're solving a problem, but it's such a specific piece of the puzzle that you have to kind of keep selling them little pieces to give them the whole picture. However, that worked really well for me for several years and helped me kind of hone my abilities to create courses, learning how to sell courses, and also kind of seeing what people liked and what they didn't like. So a few years later, when I kind of revamped the business and came up with just the trilogy or the 4 main courses, I knew a lot based on what sold over the prior decade of how to kind of structure these new courses. So you really can't go wrong with any of these 3 approaches. A huge overview course, if that sounds fun to you, go for it. If the trilogy approach sounds fun to you, where you break it up into 2 or 3 chunks, 4 chunks, and then do a course for each, go for it. Or perhaps super niched down makes sense for your audience. You really can't go wrong with either. And guess what? You can create something, you can sell it, and you can change it completely later. You can take it off the market. You can pretend it never existed. It's your business. You can do whatever you want. So you might as well create one, see what happens, learn from that, and move on to the next thing. Final thing I want to share with you is something called the accordion method. You may think, I don't have that much to teach. I've already taught it. I did a video about it on YouTube. What else is there to teach? I first heard about this, I think, from Russell Brunson. I'm not sure, but the idea of if I wrote a book is what, $15, $25? I could teach you kind of everything I know about music production in a book. But you could maybe want more with maybe audio examples. So maybe the $25 book turns into a $500 course sale, right? So it's the same basic information, but it's like an accordion. I've spread it out and I've gone deeper and I've been able to give more value. Information is pretty much the same, but it's way more valuable here because you're getting access to me, you're getting more explanations, you're getting more real world examples. So $25 turns into $500, but let's say you want to work with me one-on-one for a year and have me give you like personal feedback on your music, then maybe I'm charging like $7,000 for that. So we went from a $25 book, $500 course, $7,000 program, coaching program, but it's the same information on each. What changes is the depth and the perceived value. No one's going to say that the $500 course is a ripoff because you could read the book, because the book doesn't have stuff that the course has. No one's going to say, well, they might say that the $7,000 program is a ripoff because I could get that same by going on Reddit and posting my mix and getting feedback from people. Yeah, I guess so. But if for someone who is convinced that I'm the one to help them, they say, man, I can get that guy on retainer basically for $7,000. That's awesome. People are spending $80,000 going to an audio school. I could get personalized, bespoke feedback that nobody else gets even in audio school for way less than that. You see what I mean? So I'm not teaching all new information at each stage of the process. I'm just going deeper into the stuff that I know, and I'm delivering it in different ways with different amounts of access to me. This is where the creativity comes into play. You can create any type of course you want, and you can structure it any kind of way. One of my favorite things is to offer a course with some sort of a piece of coaching or feedback attached to it. So maybe the basic level is the course for $300, and then the advanced version of that gets you the course plus like song feedback on one of your songs. And maybe that's another $300. So now you're paying more and you're getting the course, but you're getting some. So you see how I mean? You can make it so creative and add lots of different ways of adding value and test it all out, all the while building your business and potentially quitting your job because you can make a good living selling courses online. All right, if you enjoyed this video, you'll like my video on being good enough. If you're not quite sure you're good enough to sell courses or teach people, this video might help you finalize that decision and finally start doing the thing that you know you want to be doing. Go check that out. Thanks for watching. See ya.